All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the NBA Tournament Strategy Show, where we walk through this slate, talk through guys we like, talk through guys we don't like. We also look at yesterday's slate and talk through what went well and what didn't go well, because there was a lot. There wasn't really a lot. That's dramatic, but there were a few key pieces that did not go well for me yesterday. Um, and then definitely check us out later today on the pre-lock show. That will be at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, where we actually talk through the implementation of what we're going to do on this slate. So, guys, we got to talk about it. Last night was a little bit of a shit show for me, but in a way, it still wasn't awful. Like, I wasn't profitable, which is automatically an L in my book. But I still had like one top 50 line, one top 100 line. So I still felt like I had a shot throughout the night. It just wasn't a winning night. So those nights always suck. But let's look through what went well and what didn't. This was the winning line last night. This was the 100K winning lineup. It had Donovan Mitchell in it, which was nice. On the pre-lock show, we increased our exposure to 30% on Donovan Mitchell. So that was the right move. Tyler Hero, he was a core play, so that went well. Tim Hardaway was a core play, that went well. Aaron Gordon was a core play and leverage play, so that went well. Jared Allen. Jared Allen. His first game back, coming back from an injury, I lowered my exposure to him in the DS to around 30%, I believe. And so I was slightly around field weight on him. If you didn't touch Jared Allen at all last night in the domination station, he was going to be a core play for you. So some DFS Army people crushed last night because Jared Allen was a core play for them. For me, I couldn't handle the risk. I was a little nervous with him coming back from an injury. Do I regret it? Yeah, a little bit. Not really. It is what it is. Max Strus was a guy we increased exposure to. The Max Strus play would have felt better if I didn't also increase exposure to Caleb Martin. Like Strus and Martin kind of negated each other out a little bit for me, at least. The two guys that Bojan Bogdanovic, he had a ceiling game. I think we talked about him a little bit on the show, but I didn't increase exposure to him. I wasn't excited to play him, but he was definitely and always is a GPP viable option, especially on a small slate. Speaking of, I've been getting a lot of questions about small slates versus large slates. And typically, a lot of you guys know I love small slates, but I do realize that, at least for me, I've had a lot of my tournament wins, like big takedowns on small slates, but I also feel like I've had more like boom or bust type of scenarios too, where I've had almost complete losses on small slates as well. Whereas on large slates, I feel like I'm more uh maybe not like consistently profitable, but I'm more profitable on the larger slates, but it's less likely that I'll have like a gigantic takedown. So I mean, I guess technically I'm more profitable on the smaller slates, but what I'm trying to say is more upside for me on smaller slates, but a little bit more consistency on the larger slates. Just personal preference. I don't really think it matters too much these days. And then the last guy I never really would have got exposure to is Bones Highland. With KCP playing, I really wouldn't have had a great argument for Bones Highland unless the DS just kind of threw him in a few lines, which it might have, but I'm not certain. Anyway, guys, that was yesterday. I hope some of you guys crushed. I know I saw some DMs where we had a few guys make a few $100s, but nothing too special from what I saw. So hopefully we can get back on track tonight and crush it. Thomas, Dave, Ricky G, good to see you guys. Good to see you guys. I don't know why you have a delay. I'm sorry. Hopefully it's not my fault. All right, let's start this first game. We have the Clippers against the Magic, and there's some injury news. John Wall is out. Marcus Morris is out. Norman Powell is out. Luke Kennard's out. Moose Dibata out. Jason Preston out. That doesn't matter as much. For the Orlando Magic, they have Jalen Suggs out. Mo Bamba seems to be healthy. He's not on the injury report for now. Gary Harris is out. Chuma Okeke is out. Wendell Carter Jr. is out. So a lot of injuries on both sides. The important big difference here is that the Magic, they've been dealing with injuries for a while now, so they're priced well. As we saw on last slate, though, that just because someone's priced well, it doesn't mean that they're unplayable. It just means that they're priced well, so they're more GPP-like plays. not last slate, 2 slates ago. So that's how I view the Magic. They're more pure GPP plays. None of them are really going to stand out as strong plays. They're going to have to be guys that you're having some sort of conviction on. Now on the Clippers side of things, I think there are some guys we can be interested in. Paul George, he was okay the last time he played. I'm not really trying to attack Paul George or Kawhi with them both healthy here. Kawhi saw 30 minutes in his last game, so that's kind of interesting. I don't know if that's going to be consistent, though. Kawhi and his injury history the last few years, hard for me to trust it. Kind of like AD, hard to trust, but way worse, way worse. Reggie Jackson is another guy who's going to be interesting for me on this slate. At least on paper, the DVP matchup doesn't look great, but Reggie Jackson without John Wall has been a usage monster on this team. Granted, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are heavy usage guys as well, but Reggie Jackson sees an increase here with John Wall out. So he's at least a little bit more interesting to me. At 5,100, I'm usually open to taking shots on guys like that. So potential leverage play there. Potential. We'll see. And keep an eye on it. Outside of that, I'm not too excited about anyone in particular in this game. All right. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Lakers. Man, how fun were they last night against the Raptors? Yeah, the Lakers. Anthony Davis, 8 minutes into the game, got sick out of nowhere. He was questionable yesterday, but it was because of his back injury. What does that have to do with flu-like symptoms? I don't know. I'm still kind of upset about that entire situation. Like, LeBron James went off. Thankfully, we had Donovan Mitchell, and we only had 5% LeBron James, so I was kind of scared there for a little bit that it was going to be an awful night. Yeah, AD tried to do a Jordan flu game, and it did not work out well for him. But that does not mean that I'm not open to playing him again, which in a way is me saying that I'm definitely open to being hurt once again. He's questionable today, so we are not sure if Anthony Davis is going to play. We'll find out before lock because this game is at 7:30. So I mean, there's a chance we won't find out before lock, but we should. I think we'll find out well in advance. And then we'll go from there. Of course, if Anthony Davis is out, then we'll target more guys like LeBron James and other guys on this team. If everyone's healthy, the only guy I would really consider seriously is Anthony Davis. And the reasoning for that is because his ownership will be lower because people are going to be scared to play him. And if he's feeling better today, why would I not play him? I mean, he's been great so far this season. On the other side of things, we have the Raptors. The Raptors have actually been the best fast break team in the NBA so far this season. And the Lakers have given up the second most points to the fast break this season. So this might get a little ugly. But the Raptors look great in this spot. I think we can look at Pascal Siakam. I think we can look at FVV, Fred VanVleet, Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby as GPP plays. Definitely a team that I don't want to forget about. Gary Trent Jr. as well is always a guy that we kind of, or at least I always kind of forget about, which I shouldn't because he's been fantastic for me for over the years. So need to not forget about him as often as I do. But I definitely want to keep them in mind for GPP plays and potential leverage options for me on this slate too. They always carry some sneaky upside. Yeah, the spread's pretty large on this one. There's some double-digit spreads on this slate too. So potential blowout concerns, but again, I don't hyper-focus on those too often. Next up, we have the Hawks against the New York Knicks. Once again, the Hawks will be without John Collins and DeAndre Hunter. So once again, we should see AJ Griffin and Jalen Johnson back into the starting lineup. So I guess we need to talk about the Trae Young incident. I think we all had a ton of Trae Young for the most part a few slates ago. And to be honest with you, I think we might have to do it again. It looks like he's not going to be too popular. So I don't hate getting leverage on Trae Young and even maybe DeJounte Murray again in this spot. We'll have to think it throughout the day. There's 11 games on the slate, so plenty of other shots we can take. But at least as of right now, I think Trae Young is an elite play once again. I might do exactly what I did last time out and have a rule where I don't have Trae Young and DeJounte Murray in the same lineup and have some exposure to both. I kind of like the way that played out last time out. Outside of that, we have Julius Randle and the Knicks. Julius Randle, he hasn't been special this season. Like, you haven't really needed to play him. If you've been fading him all season, you've probably been doing fine. Jalen Brunson, I always kind of I feel like I keep going back to him, but I don't like targeting point guards against the Hawks. It's something that we've done a lot before in the past, but if you've been avoiding it, like I have for the most part, it hasn't hurt you yet, which has been surprising. Thomas Dye said, for your 3 maxes, do you hand build or take lineups from the DS, then tweak it a little bit? So for my 3 maxes, I've always taken them from the DS. Well, not always. Sometimes I've hand built before and I've done fine, but I've had most of my success by using the DS. I don't just make 3 lines in the DS. I'm playing a 20 max and a 3 max, and so I'll take 3 lines out of my 20 max lines. Sometimes I'll even take 3 out of my 150 lines. But that's because for me, I really dig deep into each and every line and figure out what's happening. So it's relatively easy for me to pick my favorite 3 lines with 3 different studs with 3 different like scenarios kind of playing out. That's typically how I approach 3 maxes. But I know, well, I've had a lot of success in 3 maxes, so I'm not going to say it's not the best strategy, but it's not the most doable for like it's not something that I could like teach someone else to do. It's just something you have to see, and like we can talk about it in the Discord, and I can kind of tell you some things that I look for. All right. So yeah, we talked about Julius Randle. He's still viable from like a GPP standpoint, but doesn't really stand out too much. And that's pretty much the case for a lot of these Knicks. They're cheap. They are really cheap and in solid spots. So they're going to pop a little bit, like Mitchell Robinson, cheap and in a nice matchup. Jalen Johnson, again, starting cheap, viable. I don't understand the quickly love, but it's early, so maybe we're missing something. No one's out for the Knicks outside of Ryan Arcidiacono. Yes, good point. Thomas Dye said, but do you include your leverage plays in one of each of the 3 maxes? Yes, 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 yes. That's something I look for as well. So it's a little complicated sometimes, but like, so for me, I like to, the first vocal point is that there's a vertical and like a stud in each line that I'm really high on. And that typically includes a leverage play. Like my leverage plays typically, there's usually 5 to 6, and at least 2 of them are pivot studs that are going to be like lower owned. And so, yeah, those leverage guys are typically in my 3 maxes. And then the rest of my leverage plays are sometimes like sneaky low ownership plays. They're not going to be in all 3 of my lines, but typically I'll have like 1 or 2 of my leverage plays in some of the lines. There is not an exact science. There's to it for me, but it's a philosophy that I've stuck to for the last few years that's helped me a lot. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much the Knicks. Like I said, like there's some cheap guys that we can probably consider for value, and I think they're probably popping because we don't have great value on this slate, or we don't have a ton of great value on this slate. We have some in the Golden State Warriors game and a few other spots, but you'll see that we're kind of stretching on a few guys. So hopefully we get some news that's interesting later. Next up, we have the Hornets against the Nets. The Hornets, they have the usual guys out: Ball, Hayward, Dennis Smith Jr., Cody Martin, Mark Williams. The Nets, they have Edmund Sumner, questionable. Ben Simmons is out, and Utah Watanabe is still out. So nothing too crazy for either side here. Terry Rozier leads this team in usage around 30%. Kelly Oubre is next up with 27.8%. So definitely guys that we can consider, guys that will be in my player pool for sure. They're not popping too hard, so I doubt there'll be a core play or anything in particular, but they're definitely interesting at this point. Mason Plumlee on the other hand, has been a guy that I've been trying to, like, I haven't really been increasing a ton of exposure to, but he does pop in the DS sometimes. He's been playing pretty well. He's had 36 DraftKings points in 2 out of his last 3 games, so he's been in solid form, um, exceeding value relatively consistently. This isn't a spot where, like, I'm loving Mason Plumlee, but I do feel like I need to stop forgetting about him a good bit. On the other side of this game, Ben Simmons is out, but it looks like he's going to return here soon. Kevin Durant has been the guy on this team, which isn't really shocking, but I've been trying to get the Kyrie Irving game right for a while now. This looks like it's going to be a plus matchup for them. I think Nick Claxton's going to be the guy I'm definitely going to have exposure to on the Nets. Bigs against the Hornets is something that I'm always doing. Ben Simmons is out, plus spot for Claxton. I like it. It wouldn't shock me if Kyrie Irving ends up being a leverage play for me, but we will see. I feel like I need to jump off the train here soon. Can't keep chasing your tail in circles. That's me talking to myself here. not you guys. Not you guys. You guys aren't doing that. All right. Next up, we have the Wizards at the Chicago Bulls. Alex Caruso is questionable, so that's pretty important. Javonte Green is doubtful. Lonzo Ball is out. He's been out for a while. For the Thunder, Kenrich Williams is out, and then we have Dieng out. So interesting, nothing too crazy. Also, the Wizards will be without. I was on the wrong team. The Wizards will be without Bradley Beal, and that's what really matters here. So Corey Kispert typically starts for Bradley Beal in these spots, but he's a low usage guy. Doesn't typically do too much out there. So even when he sees big minutes, he's not someone that we're trying to force into our lines. We'll probably still have some exposure thanks to the DS. The DS will probably give us roughly, well, as of right now, he's not popping, but it wouldn't shock me if we end up having like 5 to 10% Kispert, and I'll be fine with that number right there. I know that Kyrie game, he's not coming off an injury. There's absolutely no reason for why he hasn't been having ceiling performances the last few games. It's so weird. It's so like it doesn't make actual sense to me. Like, I need to talk to someone on that team and like figure out what's going on over there. So when Bradley Beal is out, Kyle Kuzma leads this team in usage with a 30.5% usage rate, and then comes Kristaps Porzingis at 29.7. So I am definitely going to have some Kristaps Porzingis exposure. You guys know I love playing Porzingis anyway, especially when Beal is out. And then Kuzma has really been stepping his game up as well. The price tag has come along with that, though, so we're not getting him at a discount here. The Gafford love, I don't fully understand, so I'll have to dig into that a little bit more. Caruso is just 3,500. He's super cheap, so I understand that a little bit. On the Bull side of things, I think we can go back to Zach LaVine and Vucevic here. We did it on the last slate when they were facing the Golden State Warriors. I think that went okay. And so I'm more than happy to go back to them here in a softer matchup against the Wizards. Again, I'm not sure if they're going to be a leverage play for me or anything like that, but definitely considering it for them. Also, a lot of high game totals on this slate, just across the board. All right, next up we have the Thunder and the Grizzlies. I already talked about the Thunder guys. Kenrich Williams is the main guy out. When it comes to the Grizzlies, John Morant seems to be healthy. He was not on the injury report. Gafford revenge game? I forgot that Gafford used to be on the Bulls. People laugh at these revenge game narratives, but for sometimes they come through. Like Christian Wood, his only game-breaking slate has been against the Rockets. Like sometimes like revenge narratives, they make sense, like kind of, but from like a numbers standpoint, they don't make sense at all. So that's why sometimes it's fun to follow the narrative train. Also, you followed the narrative train on LeBron yesterday. That worked well for you. All right, yeah. So injury report: Jaren Jackson Jr. not on the injury report. Contra not on the injury report. Zaire Williams is healthy. Laravia is doubtful. Bain is still out. Nothing too crazy outside of that. So definitely not like all the value on the slate like we had on the last on 2 slates ago. But I do think that we can attack with the Grizzlies here. And the two obvious guys are John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. I think this is a great spot for both of them. I plan at least to be overweight on them at this point. We'll see how things change throughout the day, but I love these spots for John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. SGA, of course, if you wanted to do the bring back, like if you wanted to have like John Morant and SGA in the same line, I don't hate that at all. They could definitely ping pong. Like those are the if you're looking for point guards that can ping pong, it's literally SGA and John Morant. They're probably the two best to have that kind of situation play out. Outside of that, Giddy, he's been fine with SGA back, but he's not too exciting for me. Like not a guy I'm gonna try to force exposure to. Similar story to for Lou Dort. Um, On the other side of this game, the Thunder, I think you guys know outside of the guys I've already talked about, the rest of it is a little bit of a cluster. Uh, we have Poku, Jeremiah Robinson, Earl, Jalen Williams. The coach plays with their minutes like crazy, so it's always a GPP risk taking shots on those guys. But we've seen guys like Poku take down tournaments already a few times, so don't be afraid of it if that's where you want to go. Next up, we have the Pistons at the Pelicans. Looking to see if there's any injury news. Looks like Isaiah Livers is out. Cade Cunningham is out. On the Pelican side of things, we have Brandon Ingram out still. Herb Jones is doubtful. Devontae Graham is questionable. So if you guys potentially out here, McCollum is back, which is nice. He's been back for a while. Williamson is healthy as well. Jamie said, I told my friend about AD being the Taco Tuesday last night. We joked about it not hitting. Of course, I checked Twitter only for him to end up not being, just to see him injured and not returning. Yeah, it's funny with my barber. He's a Lakers fan, and I tell him all the time. And I told him this the year when COVID happened and basketball stopped. I was like, the Lakers are going to win the championship this year because AD had a break in there. If AD cannot stay healthy for his life, and that's why the Lakers will never win a championship unless they have a built-in long break like COVID had. All right. On the Pelicans side of things, with Brandon Ingram out, Zion is dominating this team from a usage standpoint. So I think we can definitely look at him there. CJ McCollum is the guy right behind Zion when it comes to usage rate. CJ McCollum has a 26.3% usage rate with 1.1 fantasy points per minute. Again, like not a spot I hate. It just isn't popping for me at this point. Jose Alvarado is someone that I would be very excited to play, especially if Devontae Graham ends up being out. Like that definitely allows and creates a little bit more of a floor for him. And then Dyson Daniels, I think if we're expecting him to start here with Brandon Ingram out, and if he starts, there's no reason to not play him at this point. He's been performing pretty well for us. Ricky G said, I'm a Lakers fan and we need to trade AD. Yeah, you guys do. It's so weird. Like, I still remember playing DFS, like loving Anthony Davis and loving Cousins, like as my bigs. Like those are my go-to guys who would crush day in and day out, kind of like Jokic now. But man, it's so bad. It's so bad. Jamie said, I wonder why JV doesn't get a lot of minutes. Yeah, Joe Val, I've learned. I had some moments where I thought I was holier than thou, and I thought I had the read on Jonas Valanciunas. I don't know anymore. Like, I don't know what they're doing with their minutes. With his minutes. It makes absolutely no sense to me, and I'm going to let the DS decide my fate on that one. But never a core, never a core. So yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much it. We'll see if we get any more injury news. I'm not really expecting a ton to change here. For me, my main guys are Zion and CJ. Killian Hayes, thankfully, we did not increase exposure to Killian Hayes last night. I really wanted to. I thought about it a ton, but we didn't pull the trigger on the pre-lock show, and so we dodged that bullet. With that being said, Killian Hayes has still been in really good form. He's had at least 30 DraftKings points in 3 out of his last 5 games. And so I don't love the matchup, but I do just want to make sure everyone doesn't completely forget about Killian Hayes. This is a tough spot, so I don't know if I'm going to target him here. No, Ricky. No, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry you bit that one. Um, we did talk about it on the pre-lock show. I was close. I was close to putting a little percentage on them, but I didn't. It's weird how that works. I was thinking about it today. Like sometimes those like I really want to put a percentage on a guy. Those conversations like being like, oh, we should have done it or we shouldn't have done it. I want to start trying to track that a little bit better to see how often that works or doesn't work out. Like obviously yesterday didn't work out, but we'll see. Jimmy said, "What up, DFS? I got the pro site, but boy, do I need help utilizing it. Really love the setup." Yeah, I mean, you can definitely hit me up in the Discord, and I can at least point you in the right direction. I know I'm not a great process guy, but I can always like point you towards like the coaches who are better at that and really good at it. So, whatever you feel like your area of the area you want to try to improve the most in, I can point you in the right direction or help you use some of the tools if you have any questions. I use pretty much all of them, so I have a pretty good grip on them. All right, guys, so that's that game. You like Killian? Yeah, I think Killian's definitely he's gonna be my player pool for sure, but I am going back and forth still on I know the game is coming. I just want to pick the right spot. I don't know if the Pelicans matchup is the best spot, but we'll see. The what ifs in DFS and sports betting always mess with me, is what Jamie said. Yeah, the what ifs is part of what I love about DFS and sports betting. If it was all number crunching all day, I would hate it. If it was all narrative driven, I would hate it. I love the mixture of the two. And so that's what helps you like make some silly risk and you can admit and say, hey, like this is a silly risk I'm taking. Like this isn't numbers driven. It's just kind of like a narrative gut feel. And I always try to make sure I point that out so you guys know that it might be a little silly. And then I tell you guys, or most of my leverage plays are numbers based, but the ones that are silly or for fun, I try to make sure you guys know about. Only fair. All right, next up we have the Kings at the Bucks. Let's see, is there any injury news for this game? Looks like Lopez is healthy. Allen is not on the injury report. No news for the Bucks, and then Terrence Davis is questionable for the Kings. I mean, I think the obvious play here is once again Giannis. You can always play Giannis. He'll continue to look great in every spot. That makes more than enough sense. I think everyone's on the same page there. Sabonis had a triple double against the Bulls, which was really cool to see. Him have a ceiling game, which was nice. This is a tougher matchup against the Bucks. I don't think this is a spot I want to target too many Kings in. I do feel like De'Aaron Fox plays at such a pace that he's able to compete still in any matchup. So I'm not going to like go out of my way to avoid Fox. I doubt I'm going to try to get leverage on him, but he's definitely viable. The streaky shooters, the rest of this team, Barnes, Hoyter, those guys, like I think we can definitely consider them viable. But again, with the matchup, we're not trying to force them, or at least I'm not going to try to force exposure to them unless I happen to come across a spot that I think is just really interesting. But at least as of right now, I'm not loving it. If there's one guy, it will probably be Sabonis, but not loving it. Drew Holiday, once again, I just have to shout out Madness. Madness is one of the DFS Army coaches. He has been on fire. If you look at his Twitter account, if you look in the DFS Army NBA chat talk channel, you can see his Twitter account. And last night on Twitter, he posted to the public his 3 plays: Tyler Hero, Jared Allen, and some other guy that went off. He's also been on the Drew Holiday train. Is he still on it now? He still likes Drew here as well. So he's been on all of these guys for a long time. I just want to shout him out and say that he's been fantastic with his calls as of late. For me, I'm not really on the Drew Holiday train. It's hard for me when all these guys are healthy to be on Drew Holiday or Chris Middleton or those kind of guys. So for me, it's a pass, but still want to shout out Madness. All right, next up we have the Pacers at the Timberwolves. Jamie said odds of Sabonis getting fouled out because of Giannis in this game. Yeah, that's brilliant to bring up. And that's something that you guys should, everyone should be thinking about is when guys are facing or they're facing superstars that do get a ton of fouls, like Giannis, like Jokic, like a ton of guys like that, the increase on the opposition having more fouls is definitely there. Embiid is another guy. So yeah, the odds increase that Sabonis could foul out here. I still I do think a lot of that's already driven into his ownership, though. So, like, Sabonis isn't going to be a popular play today because he's facing off against Giannis. So, Sabonis was going to be a GPP play anyway. Any of the Kings guys are going to be GPP plays. And so, they're GPPs, P plays because of that reason. So, like, they would, like, a Sabonis or a Fox would never be a core play. They would be like a guy we want to get leverage on in this spot, knowing that the risk is there that he could get into foul trouble. Speaking of foul trouble, that's what happened to Jamal Murray yesterday. Sucks. And similar philosophy, actually, is that Jamal Murray was facing off against Luka. Luka gets guys in foul trouble pretty easily sometimes. And so that argument was part of why Murray was low owned and a solid spot for him. Jimmy Hayes said, hey, if I get some wins in small stakes, makes me a believer of the big ones. Go Army. Oh, now I definitely have to sign up to be a member. Think I found the right place and I have tried a few. Awesome, man. That's good news. That's good news. And yeah, like I always say that like I don't think you can go anywhere and you're going to win every slate. I just don't think that's possible or realistic. But like with me, I try to be transparent with you guys when I lose, try to be transparent with you guys when I win. I always just try to show you guys what I'm doing. There's also a lot of other really great DFS Army coaches who can help you guys in a lot of other ways as well. So I think there's a few benefits to being a member. I mean, I was a member before I became a coach, so hope that means something. All right, guys, let's do the Pacers at Timberwolves. Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner, they're questionable, and that's huge. TJ McConnell is questionable. James Johnson is questionable. But the big things that we really care about here are Halliburton and Turner. If they're out, we go right back to the same guys we were playing on 2 slates ago because this is another smash spot for them at their price tags. We would also consider guys like Isaiah Jackson if Miles Turner is out. So this game should be like highlighted, big bright lights. Like this is the injury news that we are waiting for and that we are hoping we get well before the slate kicks off. Wow, I hope that happens. For the Timberwolves, they are without Brian Forbes, Matt Ryan, Cat is still out, Karl Anthony Towns, Taurean Prince is still out. So definitely some interesting pieces here. For me, it's TBD. This could change. But if D'Angelo Russell is going to be at 20% ownership, and my guy Anthony Edwards is going to be at 10% ownership, granted, the price difference is quite large, 1,800. I love Anthony Edwards' upside here. Love it. Love it. So he could potentially be a leverage play for me today. I feel like I've said that on a lot of guys, so you can already tell it's going to be an interesting slate. But I do like the spot for him. Of course, like the rest of these guys, like Kyle Anderson, Jalen Noel, D'Angelo Russell, Rudy Gobert, they're all in plus spots with the injuries that they have on board. Um, but they're kind of hard to trust. Like Rudy Gobert, like he's getting more expensive, but he's not really breaking the slate or doing anything of use for us in DFS. This is a plus matchup for him, so I'm assuming that's why we saw the price increase, but it's definitely concerning. If he's going to be super low owned, though, I'm willing to take the shot on him with a cat out. Interesting. This whole game is just super interesting. I want to see how the injury news breaks out, but that could be a target game for me potentially. Jamie said, I know I'm biased as F, but I might sprinkle in some future bets on Luka or Tatum for regular season MVP and Celtics to win it all. Tatum finals MVP. Hey, sports betting is illegal here in North Carolina, so I can't play. But I am sometimes thankful it's not legal here because those future bets would be way too much fun for me. Like, I might be homeless and like on the side of the road because those would just be too much fun. Unless I hit on them. That's the danger. Jamie said, I can never tell if Rudy Gobert is a good player or not. Dude is playing so funky lately. Yeah, it makes no sense to me. Thomas said, please no slow-mo today. I hate playing that guy. Yeah, you and me both. I think there's a slate where we lowered our exposure to make sure he wasn't a core play. I think that worked. OS, man, you know I don't have early locks on the day. That's not me. That's not me. Because as soon as I locked him, like some news would come out and I wouldn't play him at all. And then everyone would be like, Josiah, you played him. And I was like, the slate changed. Like, what do you want from me? All right, 2 more games to go, guys. We have the Golden State Warriors at the Utah Jazz. This game is going to be interesting. We have Steph Curry out already. We have Andrew Wiggins out. We have Draymond Green out. 3 huge studs for them out. Jordan Poole sees a gigantic increase in usage with those guys out. He also sees an increase in assist rates with Wiggins, Green, and Curry off the floor. Of course, Klay Thompson, assuming he plays. There's some concern that Klay Thompson might not play tonight. He's not questionable. He's not on any injury report. It's just, I think we're theorizing the Golden State Warriors have played a lot of games in a short amount of time. If Steph, Wiggins, and Green are out, everyone's kind of assuming Thompson's going to follow their lead. So there's some risk there, but there's definitely some pivots that we'll have available on the Warriors team and the Jazz team. So it might just be a spot I late swap out of because this is a great spot for Klay Thompson. The Jazz, they have not been a great defensive team against bigs in particular, but just also in general, they've been around average. So I love this spot for Anthony Lamb as well. He hit 7x value 2 slates ago, and he was a leverage play for me. So that was nice. I don't know what his ceiling looks like, though. That's what concerns me. He is a low usage player, so it's tough. Jamie said, I really hate to be the person paying to see the Warriors only to have Curry, Wiggins, and Green out. Yeah, it's actually ridiculous. And the Jazz upped the ticket price for this game because those guys were supposed to play. Like something, I don't know what you do in that situation. Like, can you get discounted tickets? You probably try to sell them. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, the Golden State Warriors are very interesting today. Jonathan Kuminga as well. Fantastic play today. He should move into the starting lineup is what we're expecting. His usage rate is around 19.5%, so not bad. But really the only guy's usage rate we have in this situation is Jordan Poole at 35%, just because typically Klay Thompson is not on the floor in these spots. So Jordan Poole is probably my top priority because I feel really safe about that. Then comes Kuminga, then Klay Thompson for me if I had to rate out my top 3 Golden State Warriors. When it comes to the Utah Jazz, they're not as exciting in this spot. I do think we can still look at Lauri Markkanen and we can still look at Kelly O because we can play bigs against the Golden State Warriors, and they're missing guys, so I think they'll be even worse defensively. There is some blowout risk here, but it seems like Vegas isn't too concerned about it, at least not yet. We have been on Sexton and Malik Beasley for a while on the Utah Jazz. They aren't popping for me, at least not this morning, but who knows? Maybe by the pre-lock show, things will change. It's weird not talking about them for once. All right, next up we have the last game on the slate, the Celtics at the Phoenix Suns. Jaylen Brown has been an absolute beast. Wiseman? Tom, this is a good question. I know they moved Wiseman to the G League, and then I think they moved him back up. It looks like we have him playing roughly 13 minutes for now. So it looks like we don't have him projected for a ton of minutes. And I know I've heard some talks in some like NBA circles of him potentially getting traded. I don't know. I don't trust the James Wiseman play, but I do think there could potentially be some upside there. So I want to do more digging into him and really just a lot of these Golden State Warriors because we've seen it time and time again. There's usually some guy that's not getting talked about a ton that ends up breaking the slate. So as I do research throughout the day, and I recommend you guys try to do the same, just kind of keep an eye on potential Golden State Warriors who could be a little sneaky. All right. Looks like Chris Paul. He's questionable, but I believe the news is that he's going to play. He intends to play. That's what Underdog says, is that Chris Paul is intending to play. Torrey Craig is questionable. Dwayne Washington is out. Cam Johnson's out. On the Celtics side of things, Al Horford is not on the injury report. Malcolm Brogdon is probable. Robert Williams is still out. Gallinari is still out. I do think like my interest in Devin Booker, it decreases a lot with Chris Paul potentially returning. The matchup against the Celtics isn't one that I like to pick on. These are two solid defensive teams. This is the last game on the slate, though. And you guys know I love getting exposure to the Hammer game. The problem is nothing's really standing out for me too much. So I don't know. I'll probably just let the DS decide what it wants to do, but I don't plan on forcing exposure to anyone in this game as of right now. So that's scary for sure. Yeah, Jamie, that's it exactly. Can never trust these coaches, especially Kerr. Yeah, they've been getting wild as of late. Coaches just doing wild stuff that makes zero sense to anyone unless you're just like you're actively trying to tank. But hey, you never know. You never know. But all right, guys, that's this slate. Appreciate everyone sticking around. Definitely do check me out, check us out by clicking the link in the description. You can use promo code BOB for a 10% discount if you're not a DFS Army member. For those of you who are DFS Army members, don't forget to check out the pre-lock show later today at 5:30 p.m. where we'll actually start implementing what we're doing tonight on this crazy slate. Good luck, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.